Hello, gorgeous people. I am so excited. I just had a session with my amazing friend, Mary Morgan, and she is actually going to be joining us here. And I'm just going to mute this, otherwise, I'm going to hear myself. And she is going to be joining us to talk about the experience that she had in her session, which is literally the greatest thing ever for me because just that sometimes I have a hard time explaining them. But today we're going to talk to you about a little bit about what that experience was like, about what some of that magic was like. And hello, Mary.
Hello, you guys. How are you? Wild.
Wild, right? That's the feeling that you're left with.
Like, how do I even begin this? How do I begin this? So I'm excited to, yeah, just jump in and have a conversation around what the hell just happened.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because there's so much we talk. Like, first of all, let's talk about this. What was your expectation? Hi, Catherine. What was your expectation versus what it was actually like?
I feel like one thing that I try and do is try and walk into things with little to no expectations so that no matter what, it's good. But I was like, what do I think is going to happen? I don't know. I thought there was gonna be some, like, weird stuff. Like, I thought I was gonna go into, like, trance or something. Who knows? I didn't know where we were gonna go. Like, anytime I read, testimonials that Michael has on his page, they've been things like, I don't know what the hell just happened, but I came out and I'm a new human. Oh my gosh, I'm like all these amazing, amazing, amazing case studies. So I feel like with that, you're like, I don't know what to expect, to be honest. Like, what even happens for something like this to occur? So I feel like it was interesting because it was basically just like series of questions, but in a way where, and like a way that you hold space. There's just like a way that you do it where it's not like woo woo, super weird, like uncomfortable in that sense, where it's like, where am I? Like, what is happening to me? It just felt so there was so many things that Michael would ask me and I would answer, but I was like, "I don't think that this is the answer you're looking for, but I'm just gonna say what's coming up." And then over a series of questions, it's almost like everything that I said was so relevant, and often these were things that were just so random. Like, I pictured a little boy in a forest, and I'm like, "This is what I'm seeing. I don't know what this means." Or in a field, "I don't know what this means. I don't know what this is for." And then we'd go on this whole spectrum, this whole journey through a series of questions, through this back and forth, through feeling things that would shift in my body, shift in my presence, and it just unlocked so, so much. So I feel like, yeah, it's one of those things that's like undescribable. Like you have to do it to even know what occurs in a space like this, but it is just such a beautiful experience. So I'll just start with, when I first got on, my goal is like, okay, so what are I'm going to butcher how you started this, but it was like, what are the things that you like are holding you back essentially? What was the question? Do you even know? It's like,
Yeah. What do you want to work on today? What's the problem?
yeah, yeah, exactly. What do you want to work on today? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I'm blocked. Like we started going through this process and I was like, I don't know, am I answering this correctly? I'm like, am I doing this process right? And it was just like such a beautiful experience in how he held space, but also guided you through things so that if you didn't know how to answer things, like he would like pivot or move something through or like just shift something slightly. And it was like it always just came out perfectly. So
Yeah.
I just went, okay, I'm releasing the expectations. I'm releasing like all this stuff. Like, here's what's coming up. I don't think that this is actually what I want to work on, but this is what just came through.
So I'll share with you. So from my perspective,
Yeah.
the first part is like the hardest part because I'm
Mhm.
trying to get through that first level of conscious
Yeah.
mind. And so everything we do at the beginning, I think of it like a maze. So we enter the maze on like the top floor. It's like very conscious. And they ask you all these questions, and you basically just feed me back your conscious conclusions, like the thing that you think is the thing that's wrong. And then basically, like we go around this top loop of the maze, and I look for cracks. I look for
Mhm.
little tells that there's something more there. There's an emotional thing, or there's just something else. And when I feel that, I just bring it back. And if I keep
Mhm.
bringing you back to that thing, then we go down a level. And then at that next
Yeah.
level, we go around the maze and you tell me you slow down a little bit. You slow down because we're slightly less conscious now. And we start going around the maze and you tell me what's wrong. And I again look for those little tells. And then I focus and then you go down a level. And then we get slower and slower and we get less and less conscious, less and less watchful, more and more unconscious. And what usually starts to happen at that point is we start seeing analogies, we start seeing imagery, we start feeling things happening in our body. And so again, we just put the attention back on that. And we're just basically like building these arcs of attention on this unconscious thing as we just go deeper and
It's
deeper.
so interesting. So interesting as you explain that. I'm just gonna let Joey, for those who don't know, my dog, out. He loves going when we're alive. He always wants to go out. It's so interesting, as you're explaining that, I'm like, I I could see that. Obviously, when you're in a session, like you don't consciously necessarily see
Yeah.
exactly what's happening. But if I look back now in hindsight after a call, I feel like that's why I felt like I'm
Oh, I think you,
I'm
oh
oh,
no, you're
can you
back.
see me?
You're back. Yeah,
Okay.
you're back.
So I'm quite self-aware. So like in the beginning of our session, I'm like, this isn't it though. This isn't it. This isn't it. But also I feel like a part of that is I then move into an overthinking. Is this it? Is this it? Is this it? So like my self-awareness becomes like a self-obsession. So
Yeah.
I try to break myself out of that, but Michael's really good at just doing that. You don't need to do anything, like you would just redirect. So how do you do that? Because I know I'm
Oh
a
my
tough
God. There's so much to it. Like people are always like, you just have to congratulate literally so much that goes into doing this. Like the as like effortlessly as I do. But man, well, first of all, something I want to reflect back to you as well with what you're saying is that in the beginning, every time you were trying to resolve, you would go into head and try to figure out. And then without me ever prompting you, just from having gone so deep by the end, you would go in and get a little piece, and then you'd be like, okay, let me work on that. And you intuitively, by the end, were just working with your own unconscious, which makes my
Mm,
job so easy because we'd be like, oh, there's one little piece here. Yeah, what is that? And then you just go in. And instead of trying to solve, you just
mm.
intuitively be working with yourself without me having to do
Which,
any.
it's so interesting. I feel like people who do long-term work with you, like this is one of the things that it's like you probably get really good at then like tapping into your own unconscious. Like the first couple sessions is I feel like you're starting to understand like what is the conscious level, what is the subconscious level. And I feel like a lot of us still know this like practically, but there's a completely different feeling when you feel it and you get it and you're like, nope, okay, drop in, got it.
Yeah.
And, you and I talked about this the other day around like speed of thought to implementation is, how people are successful. And I feel for you, it's kind of like that too with your clients. It's speed of moving to unconscious, boom, this is what I need to do instead of just like idea to implementation. Now it's like thought, but if we're just in our head thought, we never get the answer. So it's like body thought, unconscious thought, then into answer. So like even in that one session, there's that level of awareness of, oh damn, if someone got into this rhythm, like you're superhuman. Like there's nothing that you can't do because you have such a different frequency. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I just want to reflect that as
Yeah.
well.
And what you found too, which happens like in all the sessions, is we think so much about trying to solve. And it's not actually about that. It's like, why aren't we already? So it's like we get down to this deep level where nothing really makes that much sense except that there's this problem. And we keep, and this is like where I really evolved because the way I first learned was to literally try and put in the conscious solutions. But the problem with that
Mhm.
is they're conscious solutions. So if you were like, just say you were like, I'm feeling stuck, because that's what a lot of people say. And you have these conscious ideas of what you need to do. Well, if I get down to this deep unconscious level and I just feed back to you what you consciously thought, that's not actually solving it in the unconscious. So instead of giving
Mhm.
a solution, we just take you down to that level and just keep drawing attention to it, drawing attention to it, drawing attention to it until it's like blip. And then it's just like, and the unconscious mind finally gets it and goes, oh, this isn't what we want. And it's like, there's this moment and you're just like, I don't know if you realize how long it was, but there was like quite a bit of time where you're just kind of there and your eyes are flashing back and forth and your unconscious is like rewriting itself basically. And then you, without me telling you to do anything, to solve anything, you start working your way back up the maze. And so what you do is you find this thing called a resource, and you find the resource in the unconscious, and then you go up to the next level of the maze and you solve all your own problems. And then you go up to the next
Wow.
level of the maze, and then you solved all your problems at that level. And then by the end, you're back at the surface level, and I haven't said anything about solutions. You're literally just telling me the solutions to your
Yeah.
problem.
That's what was kind of wild to me was I went in desiring some clarity around some stuff that I'm working on in the business and just even in life, to be honest. And then consciously, like for the life of me, I would not be able to come up with these things. And if we do, like we all know, you're going to have a list of like 30,000 different options. Oh, I could do this or this or this or this or this. And then it's overwhelm. And then now thinking from overwhelm, what does that lead to? Like it's just a hot freaking mess and it's a disaster. So, like, through this process, what was so beautiful that Michael did was like, when I got into this, just like he's saying, it's like I was just dropping in. No, these are all the things I could do, but this is what I need to do. Like, this is the actual thing. So, it takes you from here are the 50,000 different options to here are the 1 to 2 things that are actually going to move the needle based on the thing that is actually holding me back. It's like, this is how to actually unlock it. Like, this is the actual key right here. Now go unlock it versus go test these 20,000 different keys and try and figure out which one works. Like, it was such a beautiful experience. And I love the analogy that you gave of the maze. Like, I totally see how, again, looking back, like you're moving from completely different frequencies. Like that first bit of our call, it was very like, is this the right answer? I don't know. Should I say this? Should I say that? That's kind of how I felt. And now knowing this, I guess it's normal. So
Yeah,
it's like,
100%, 100%. Yeah,
you're
like,
not,
when you're doing it perfectly.
yeah. And that's what was beautiful too, is he holds space for you in such a beautiful way where it doesn't feel like, is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? Or even if you do feel like that, which is what I did, he's no, don't worry, like you've got this. It's perfect. Keep going. And it was just like, so it almost helps you go into your unconscious even more quickly in the way that you do it. Like, again, that's just one example. There's so many things that you did.
And so something that's really interesting is that I actually can't think about solving it either. So you can't think
Mm.
about solving it, and I can't think about solving it, because if I think about solving it, it also messes it up.
Because
So
then
it's
you're
like
in your
no one can be thinking about solving it.
yeah.
The only thing that
Yes.
gets to solve it is your unconscious mind. And then your unconscious mind, it just kind of does it when it's ready to do it. And then
Which
once
makes
it's
sense.
happening, you're just like, yeah. And then it's like a snowball. It's like, okay, it's starting, we're starting. And then it's just, you just push it. Just push that snowball as it's building momentum, as it's building steam. And then it's just, and the thing is, at the end of it, it's like, you can't even say exactly what happened. Like, can you tell me exactly what happened? Neither can I.
No.
But we see
Yeah.
the shift in the result, and you're going to
Yeah.
continue to see the shift in how it's going to compound for you in your life, which
Mhm.
I'm also very excited to talk about. But it's so deep that you can't actually explain what happened. You just know
Yeah.
that it happened.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the biggest thing too of any time, like those of you who are watching this conversation now too, it's like any session that you get in that is the level of depth that we're talking about here. It's like, how could you remember if we go back and think about like our whole lifetimes that we've lived? It's like, how can we like pinpoint like that was the specific thing that Michael said that changed it? It was like, no, it was all the things, all the series of things that you said that you directed me into that brought that. Like there was no way that if someone asked me that I could recreate almost like those steps. It was like you just have to feel it and experience it. And I feel like that's part of because it's unconscious, like,
Yeah.
because we're doing that work, if I were to break it down, well, then now I'm like trying to process it in my conscious mind, which wouldn't even be correct.
Listen to you. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And so something else I'm interested to hear what your experience of is that once we get back up that maze, I actually try to break your solution. Like your biggest fears from the beginning, I feed them back to you. I don't know
Mhm.
if you noticed that.
Let me try and think. I think you did because you would say, what does this have to do with this?
Yeah, but at the
Right?
end, it was like, what if this happens? What if this worst case
Oh,
scenario?
yes.
What if this was,
Yes.
and you're just like, no, I'm not like, and that's what I'm looking for. We either break it and then we do the process again, or it's you're so strong in this new
Yeah.
knowing that you actually fight back. You actually reject your own fears, which is kind of like some reverse psychology, which deepens and reinforces that solution that you found.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I feel like on one session, you come in with what do you think what you think you need. So I need clarity, I need direction, I feel stuck, like whatever the thought process is, but then you take it to the root. Here's what it actually is. Let's work through it. We work through it. And then just like you said, it's is it still blocked or do we need to do this again? Like where are we at? So at that end little piece, it was like I'm solid. Like I'm grounded, I'm anchored, I'm good. I don't need anything else. And it was like such a beautiful moment. And something you ended with, which I feel like I just intuitively felt too, was Michael said, this is just the beginning. This isn't the transformation you feel isn't the transformation. And it's so interesting because I felt this too. I was like, okay, like this is piece 0.01. This isn't even point one of the piece. It's let me go do the action. Let me go do the stuff. And then I'm going to start feeling differently. And then I'm going to start shifting things.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear your take and your thoughts on what that actually looks like as
Yeah.
well.
This is like a really important piece because we often feel very good after we do work like this. And so people will misattribute that like feeling of freedom or that feeling of lightness or that good feeling after working on something as the breakthrough. But it's not actually your that feeling is great, but it's like I'm a results focused person. Like as like out there as I am, like it is literally a seeking of results that got me to doing the work that I do the way that I do it. And so the actual breakthrough is the reorganization of your thoughts and behaviors and ultimately the like physical result in your life. And that takes time. So as we kind of look at the deepest level, there's like this seed of thought that's like growing into all these things that you're experiencing. It's like we change the seed. And so this new seed grows and processes. It's almost like you're like a cake baking in the oven. And it's like the processing takes time. The reorganizing takes time. So you don't actually get the result for a couple of weeks. Well, you get it, but it like continues to compound. Like it's like you just have the seed and the seed keeps growing and growing and
You know
growing.
what? Yeah. You know what I think it is too is it's like we come in and we're right here and all of our desires are up here. This is the money, the wealth, the freedom, the connection, like all the things are up here. We're down here and we're looking for all this stuff down here.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the solutions? What are the tools? What are the stuff? But then you take us through this experience where it's like these, like, it's not it's this to get up here. It's that rewiring over and over. So it's like you give that first piece on that first call that's okay, this is what it is. Here's the path, like the beginning of the path.
Yeah.
And then now it's like the consistent work after that. Because again, I'm sure, you've had people who come in, do one call. And yeah, just like you said, it's like you feel good, but that's not even the result. That's like the idea of things are now starting to open, things are starting to shift, things are starting to, oh, like there's like a level of awareness that completely shifts. Like I feel like that's how I ended the call was I came in and seeing the world in a specific way. And then it was like I almost ended with a completely different lens. So it's like you gave me these glasses that are like, oh, those like red filter glasses? If anyone's ever seen those and you put them on and then you see all the blue lines and then you take them off and you're like, wait, but where are those lines? And then you put them on, you're like, ah, there they are. And it's like, those are the lenses. They show you the unseen, the invisible, the unconscious, whatever we want to call it. It shows you that invisible path. That's what you were looking for. That's what you've been searching for. It's like you put the glasses on, you see where it is, and it's this level of clarity that I feel like I've never seen something like that. Like you can't obviously do this in a conscious way.
No.
So
I love
no.
that you just explained it like that because that's literally how I talk about it sometimes. It's like it literally, and that's the funnest part. My favorite part is when we get to the end and I'm like, now, like, how do you feel about that problem? And you're like, what problem? I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it was so amazing. And I love that when you ended, you asked those questions like, if this happens, if this happens, if this happens, like, then what? And it's like in the beginning, those were such huge problems. And in the end, it's like with this level of awareness, those aren't even issues. Like, those are the smallest little things possible. So it was just such a complete up level. I feel like most people see an up level as what do I do am I back? I
Yeah.
think I froze for a sec. What do I do with my brand? What do I do with my content? What do I do with all these micro little pieces? And but that doesn't actually shift anything if we're the same human behind the brand who's playing small, who doesn't want to be seen. Right. So good. So good. So that was a freaking amazing session. So if you guys have not done a session with Michael, run. So amazing. You got to just do it. You can't, I mean, we've explained it. So yeah, we've explained it.
Explain it as much as you can explain.
Yeah, we've explained as much as we could, but it's like you can explain a movie to someone, but when you watch the movie, it's an experience now. Oh my God, that just happened. Whoa, that just happened. And like the popcorn, the environment, like it's an experience. So in this setting as well, it's yeah, we can explain what it's about, but when you're actually there, it's a completely different frequency. And yeah, it was just amazing. So thank you so, so much. And
It's my pleasure. And I don't know if we want to talk. We have some exciting things coming up together.